Yeah, so and what it seems like is Russia, China, they're constructively engaging with the world. They're helping people build tangible things, and the U.S. is coming to take things or tell them what to do with their foreign policy or even their domestic policy. And what's happening is the world is changing, where the U.S. really doesn't have any more room to do what it has been doing all of these decades. They're turning inward, and that is unsustainable. So what's going to happen is, and just as you suggested, you have all of these interests, even if they're people we don't really like, but they're interests that are invested in their own self-preservation. They're going to think of a new way to engage with the world constructively. And maybe they might give up on this idea of global hegemony, because it's just impractical. It's impossible, I would say. We probably don't have a time for a lot of questions, but they're asking about the U.S. invasion of Mexico. I think this is more of a distraction or maybe scapegoating. I don't know what to make of this. I really can't see that. So what do you think about that?
Here's what's going on. This is not an accident. Put this together. The president of Mexico, AMLO, says we got to be friends with Cuba and Nicaragua, and what the United States is doing is wrong. What the U.S. is doing is wrong with China. He's on the right side of all of these with Russia. Hey, we need peace in Russia, right? He then goes on to say, hey, what you're doing with Julian Assange is wrong. Send Julian Assange to Mexico. We'll take him. He'll be free here, right? Then he says, look, you know, the U.S. is stealing our oil and gas. We're going to nationalize our gas and oil, and we'll keep it ourselves. Exxon, you guys, you got to leave, right? So and then the U.S., if you read, there's all these articles. He's suddenly, AMLO's a dictator. He is stopping even though like he's overwhelmingly, supported by the people of Mexico. Now suddenly he's a dictator, right? So he goes against U.S. foreign policy. He goes against the U.S. attack on Assange. Suddenly he's a dictator. And then all of a sudden the U.S. says, I think we need to send troops to the Mexican border for immigration. Yeah. And maybe we should bomb Mexico for drugs. Yeah. No, that has nothing to do with immigration. It has nothing to do with drugs. They are trying to intimidate the president of Mexico because he's not on board, and he's pushing back against all the U.S. imperialist stuff. So, yeah, that's what the threats to Mexico, sending troops to the border for immigration is all about. It is the mafia techniques of intimidating the country next door. To basically, it's a message to AMLO. You better stop all of this. I love Julian Assange, and I'm going along with the Russians and Chinese. Mexico has applied to be part of BRICS. And like I said, you're kicking Exxon Mobil in these countries out. They want to keep their own stuff. That's what these threats to Mexico are really about.
That makes so much more sense. And sometimes the simplest explanation is the right explanation. And the U.S. really is, isn't it, a global mafia? It's a mafia on a global scale. That's how they do business. We see so many examples of that. So I think that's a really good explanation.
Thanks for watching the video, and please consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing to the channel. Thank you very much.